you're really committed to the cause and willing to go through that, please, we'll welcome you in.
The beliefs that we hold back at home.
You have to have thick skin.
We need grassroots patriots to go to project2025.org, sign up for our Presidential Administration Academy, and we will be in touch because together we are going to build the network that we need to ensure that the next conservative president is a success.
For weeks, Donald Trump has desperately and dishonestly tried to distance himself from the wildly unpopular pro-Trump Project 2025 agenda. But unfortunately for Trump, a slew of Project 2025 videos were recently released onto the internet, and in one particularly creepy recruitment video, two top Trump allies, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Kari appeared, thus reinforcing the fact that Project 2025 is Donald Trump's MAGA Republican agenda. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we haven't done a video about Project 2025 in some time, but as a reminder, it is the wildly unpopular MAGA Republican agenda that was constructed by dozens of former Trump administration and Trump campaign officials, specifically for Donald Trump. We've gone over the multiple connections. It's simply a fact that there is an incestuous relationship between Project 2025 and Donald Trump's administration and campaign. But he knows it's unpopular, especially the more people dive into it. So he's panicking. He's trying to distance himself from it. But recent videos made by Project 2025, including this recruitment video, really have screwed him over. So we're going to play this video and unpack it together. And be on the lookout for Marjorie Taylor Greene, Kari and other Trump administration and Trump campaign advisors and officials.
Hey everybody, I'm Spencer Cradian with Project 2025 here at CPAC. We're having great conversations. We're meeting people from all across the country who are interested in serving the next conservative president.
I think Project 2025 is exactly what we need. I think everyone needs to look ahead 2-3 years out because last time it got thrust on us.
He shocked the world by winning. So the transition team was rushed and we were vastly undergunned against the deep state.
I saw the attempts by bureaucrats that had been there longer than I had that actually worked against the last administration.
What happens usually is that the beliefs that we hold back at home somehow get lost along the way to Washington.
But this is a fixable, solvable problem, and we're going to do it as part of Project 2025.
It is a great opportunity for us as a movement to prepare staff and policy recommendations for the next president way earlier than we have ever done before.
If we want to hit the ground running, I think starting now is an excellent idea. Just get involved, get your foot in the door, get working, and great opportunities will come to you.
You're going to get attacked by the liberal media. The career bureaucrats are going to hate you.
You have to have thick skin. We have to get beyond being bothered by what words they're going to call us.
If you're really committed to the cause and willing to go through that, please, we'll welcome you in.
We need grassroots patriots to go to project2025.org, sign up for our Presidential Administration Academy, and we will be in touch because together we are going to build the network that we need to ensure that the next conservative president is a success.
So yeah, that was a particularly creepy and culty recruitment video, and Donald Trump's face was plastered all over it. Everyone in that video either directly worked for Trump or is a top MAGA Republican Trump ally, like Kari and Marjorie Taylor Greene. So even though they did their best not to mention Trump by name, that entire ad was saturated in pro-Trump connections. Absolutely ridiculous. And will go further to undermine Trump's desperate, dishonest attempts to distance himself from it, which, by the way, according to the polls, people aren't buying it, and rightly so. Trump doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt here. Again, there's too much of an incestuous relationship, dozens upon dozens upon dozens of former Trump campaign and administration officials. Project 2025 is Donald Trump's agenda. And for a reminder of what that agenda is, Mehdi Hasan, my favorite progressive journalist and news commentator, political commentator, he has about a 2-minute and 30-second breakdown of Project 2025 delivered as persuasively as only Mehdi Hasan can.
If you believe the polls, Donald Trump is heading for the White House in 2025, and he'll be bringing Project 2025 with him. That's the 920-page policy document filled with crazy far-right authoritarian proposals that you all need to know about and that I'm going to summarize for you right now, all 30 chapters, in just 2 minutes. Start the clock. Chapter 1, turn the White House Council, which is supposed to give the president independent legal advice, into a, quote, activist force for the president's agenda. Chapter 2, root out anyone in the National Security Council or the Office of Management and Budget who's too woke or is aligned with the president's agenda. Chapter 3, replace thousands of career civil servants with MAGA loyalists. Chapter 4, radically increase the defense budget, expand the nuclear weapons production, lift restrictions on arms sales and expel all transgender people from the military. Chapter 5, ramp up deportations of undocumented immigrants, including dreamers, make it easier to detain kids in detention camps and allow ICE officers to arrest migrants anywhere in the US, even without a warrant. Chapter 6, defund the Palestinian Authority, bring back Trump's Remain in Mexico asylum policy and restrict funding for international health organizations like the WHO. Chapter 7, ramp up the use of covert ops and use the CIA to, quote, implement the president's agenda. Chapter 8, defund, quote, unquote, leftist news organizations like NPR and PBS. Chapter 9, get rid of all climate policy from our foreign aid programs. Chapter 10, restrict food stamps and free school meals in low-income school districts. Chapter 11, abolish the Department of Education. Chapter 12, gut renewable energy programs and vastly expand our natural gas infrastructure. Chapter 13, shrink the EPA and shut down the Office of Environmental Justice. Chapter 14, get rid of Head Start for low-income families and ban the abortion pill mifepristone. Chapter 15, ban all non-citizens from living in government-subsidized housing, even if they're living in a family with citizens. Chapter 16, weaken the Endangered Species Act and significantly expand oil drilling in Alaska. Chapter 17, empower the president to investigate his opponents through the DOJ and eliminate the FBI's independence. Chapter 18, make it easier for businesses to discriminate on the basis of religious freedom and, of course, race. Chapter 19, restrict the EPA's ability to regulate CO2 emissions from cars. Chapter 20, force the Department of Veterans Affairs to seize abortion services and gender-affirming surgery. Chapter 21, focus the Minority Business Development Agency on, quote, the evils of socialism and communism. Chapter 22, increase taxes on millions of low-income and middle-class households. Chapter 23, it's just a long rant against China. Chapter 24, should we bring back the gold standard? Chapter 25, punish Planned Parenthood for getting COVID-19 relief loans. Chapter 26, give more of Congress's power to make trade agreements to the president. Chapter 27, abolish the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which has saved consumers tens of billions of dollars. Chapter 28, limit content moderation on social media platforms. Leave hate speech alone. Chapter 29, take away the Federal Election Commission's power to prosecute election and campaign law violations. And Chapter 30, go after companies with ESG, DEI, and other corporate social responsibility programs. That's what's in Project 2025. That's what could be heading our way. And if you want more people to know what's in it, then share this bloody video with them, will you?
We got the assignment, Mehdi. I mean, yes, Project 2025 in a nutshell is a massive power grab by conservative activists to the president. And I should say, they would never support this. They would never support accruing more power into the executive if the president is a Democrat or a liberal or progressive. Then they want you to be a hands-off executive and defer authority to Congress and certainly to a right-wing Supreme Court. This is about accruing power for a conservative right-wing executive. In the United States, where our system of government is predicated on two co-equal doctrines: separation of powers and checks and balances. Now, the president of the United States is the most powerful individual in the country by far, in that there's no single person, not a senator, not a congressman, not even a Supreme Court justice, who has more authority and agility invested in them as a person. But there's supposed to be power dispersed among the three branches. Not co-equally. Congress is actually supposed to be the most powerful branch, more powerful than the president, more powerful than the Supreme Court. But Congress is also unwieldy, right? We have a bicameral legislature. We have 535 members of Congress, 100 in the Senate, 435 in the House. The filibuster is also another anti-majoritarian relic that's in the Senate. So basically, Congress acting decisively, even though it has the most power, is very, very, very rare. Whereas the president, as powerful, or as large as the executive branch is, because it's a relative top-down hierarchy, it's easier for the president to wield power than Congress and the courts. And what they want, what Project 2025 wants, is to put Donald Trump back in the White House and give him even more power, to erode checks and balances and separation of powers. Independent government agencies like the Federal Reserve, the Federal Election Commission, the Federal Communications Committee, the FCC, they actually want the president to exert more control over them, ignoring separation of powers and checks and balances and congressional safeguards. They want a future President Trump to be able to issue commands to the chairman of the Federal Reserve to raise or lower interest rates depending on what's convenient for him personally. Or again, as Mehdi Hassan points out, to erode the FEC's ability to regulate federal election laws and to punish federal election violations. It's a massive power grab for very sinister purposes against the LGBTQ community, against liberal, progressive, and leftist organizations. They want to. Donald Trump has publicly said repeatedly that he wants to use the power of the executive branch in a second term to go after MSNBC, CNN, and others because they're critical of him. Imagine if President Biden or Vice President Harris proposed doing that to Fox News. Imagine how Republicans and right-wingers would react, and quite frankly, how the mainstream media would react, right? Project 2025 is utterly terrifying. It's a 900-page tome. They've put millions of dollars and considerable talent and manpower into it. It is a serious effort. And Donald Trump knows that the more people know about it, the more people dislike it. It is a wildly unpopular agenda to benefit a wildly unpopular presidential candidate, Trump himself. Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation and Biden-Harris administration surrogate for the Harris campaign, he put it pretty well quite recently.
Well, I say this with deep humility, having borne witness to the Palin candidacy, but do you think that they meant to pick J.D. Vance? And by that I mean, do you think they knew that he's the human embodiment of the 900 pages of Project 2025?
Well, it's a great point. Project 2025 is wildly unpopular, so much so that I'm pretty sure it's the first time in modern history that a presidential candidate has had to disavow his own policy framework. And let's be clear, that's what this is, right? Just because they dissociate with the guy who wrote it up and try to get a different brand name doesn't change the fact that before it occurred to anybody to write it down and call it Project 2025, this was already their governing agenda because it's part of the playbook they followed when they were in charge. And therefore, it will unquestionably be their governing agenda again, should he get reelected.
And again, we're not obligated to give Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans the benefit of the doubt. It's a disproportionately dishonest political movement and political candidate, far more dishonest than the Democrats, far more dishonest than President Biden and Vice President Harris. You and I are not obligated to take them at face value when they say, hey, this isn't ours. I want you to ignore the dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of administration and campaign officials that are involved in this. I want you to ignore the fact that top MAGA Republicans like Kari and Marjorie Taylor Greene are involved with it, and they have the ear of Donald Trump. Ignore all that. Just trust me when I say that we have nothing to do with it. That's nonsense, and the American people aren't buying it. And if we play this right, this will help punish Donald Trump at the ballot box in November. Let me know what you think in the comments.